YouTube fandom community, Lovin Spoonful fans, random people on the internet, my name is Giggens. We are here today to talk about the Lovin Spoonful's second album, Daydream, released on Kama Sutra Records in March of 1966. I can't seem to find an exact date on this thing, but sometime in March of '66. By this point, the Lovin Spoonful had been a band for just over a year, and in that time had really begun to take off. They had a couple of humongous hits by this point, where You Didn't Have to Be So Nice, and their first song, Do You Believe in Magic, with the accompanying album at that point as well. So they were on fire, they were on top of the world, everybody wanted a piece of them. They were constantly on tour, they were constantly in the studio, doing TV, radio, you name it. As popular to the point where the people who were putting together the Monkees TV show thought, we can get those guys and just call them the Monkees. But they were like, we've already got a hit song as the Lovin Spoonful, this is what we're doing. So anyways, this album did really well for them. Number 2 in the charts for the song Daydream. Number 10 in the charts for You Didn't Have to Be So Nice. So, and then side 2 of this thing, like 3 in a row. I mean, classic Lovin Spoonful songs in this thing. This was their first LP of 3 released in 1966. One of those was a soundtrack, but they had 3 full-length albums come out with their name on it in 1966. These guys were working non-stop. I mean, there's a great interview out there right now with Steve, because he just put out a book, Hotter Than a Match Head, which is his autobiography, and basically recounts a lot about the band itself. But there's a great interview where he talks about how basically the Spoonful were put into a studio for a couple of days at a time, and you made your album. You had 2 or 3 days, and you made your album. And you were there for the allotted amount of time during the day. If you had an hour or 2 hours, 3 hours, and then people were there waiting for you to leave the studio, so you couldn't stay overtime, you couldn't experiment. You basically had to go in, do your songs, do it well, do it quickly, and leave. So they didn't have a whole lot of say in the direction of the music or in the style of the album cover or anything of the stuff that bands have now. And that was common for the time. I mean, that was pretty common for back in the day, but they run those guys ragged. The Lovin Spoonful in between 1965 up to early '67, they were pretty much non-stop. But I love this album. I think this is one of their best albums. It's them at their height. It's the height of their power, Lovin Spoonful. '66 was just a great year for them, musically anyway. They really did, Summer in the City came out later that year. Then I can go on. Anyways. This album was recorded at the end of '65. They say between August and December. I think they're throwing in August because maybe You Didn't Have to Be So Nice was recorded at some point in there. That song came out as a single in November of '65, just after their debut album came out, also I think in the same month or in October of '65. So that's interesting. And then this album came out, and in the summer of '66 they put out Did You Ever Have to Make Up Your Mind as a single, which came off the first album, but it came out after this album. Who knows? Anyways, produced by Eric Jacobson, who did most of their albums back in the day. It opens with Daydream. So John sings this one. It's got that really bouncy, relaxed, really, finger-picked kind of electric guitar feel and a clean rhythm. John's vocals on this song are super soothing, they're calm, they're relaxing, they're warm, and that whole Americana-style harmonica that pops up throughout this thing, the whistle solo, the whole thing has a bit of that nostalgic kind of vibe of just like, remember when things were easy kind of mentality? You don't have a care in the world, there's no worries hitting you in the head all the time. It's just like, you know what, I'm going to go outside, roll my face in someone's new mown lawn and just not care, just not give a crap. And this song went to number 2 in early 1966. I mean, it's such a... These days, a song like this would never hit the radio, but back in the day, it was great. I love the way the track builds up throughout, and I love the storytelling vibe that John has in his voice, and the slight barroom piano that pops up once in a while in the background. But overall, a fantastic start to the album. I love this song. Just a great track. Good vibe to it. There She Is. This one's sung by Joe, and John pops in once in a while on this one too, but this almost feels like one of the guys got a new guitar and just wanted to show off how to play this thing, because it's totally led by the guitar. Really great riffs on this song. Rollicking drums. I love the really heavily strummed acoustic guitar on this thing. And the lead vocals by Joe, I think, are absolutely fantastic. He would go on to be the lead singer of the band after John left, and then still to this day is the lead singer of the band. But This song for me is definitely like in the Buddy Holly canon, or even like even the Bo Diddley a little bit, some of the guitar feel to it, but it's definitely got a raw sort of rock vibe to it. But love the vocals on this track. Very good pop stuff. You know, it's a good second track. It's Not the Time Now is the next song on here, and this for me has a bit of a Nashville Cats kind of vibe. But it's interesting because it touches on like minor chords that would only be done like in psychedelic songs. So for me, there's definitely like a folk vibe, but it's also like dabbling in psychedelic, but also kind of in the rock tradition, but with a pop-minded orient. Um, that's why I like the Lovin Spoonful. They were all over the place, and that makes their albums, yeah, eclectic, but super fun to listen to because you don't know what's going to happen next. Um, the vocal on this one, the syncopation to it just has that folk rock vibe syncopation that you would have expected from like Peter Paul and Mary Records or Ian Sylvia or somebody. Very cool. I love the Birds-esque guitar, jangly guitars on this thing. It's like bordering on country, but not quite there. And I like that feel to it. I like that it's almost country, but not, which they would kind of dabble with country later on. But yeah, cool song. Warm Baby. John sings lead on this one, and this is one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's got a bit of that Sweet Home Chicago vibe. I'm definitely getting like, you know, hey, baby, won't you please come on, that kind of vibe, which I love, and that awesome trippy falsetto harmonies throughout this thing, the background vocals, the drums are super punchy, the guitars are choppy and groovy, and John's voice can go from totally soft to a more raw rock and delivery. And I love the fade out on this thing. The only thing I don't like about the song is that it's too short. It's a hell of a lot of fun. I love the vibe to this thing a lot. Just a good groove of a song. Just a loose kind of rocker. You would have never expected. Like, if you hadn't heard anything beyond, you know, Do You Believe in Magic or Summer of the City or whatever, you would have never expected them to make a song like this. And I think that's what's really cool about The Spoonful, is that they were so much more than their singles. You know, put on one of their albums, get lost in the world that they create, and see what they got. Day Blues. This song's great. It's just a bit of a slow jam here. Really nice, detailed, clean guitar playing throughout this thing. Splashy ride, cymbal accents throughout. Really bright harmonicas and excellent harmonies with, this has to be Zal and John. Yeah, Zal and John on this one. It's really dreamy and it gets stuck in your head. It's an awesome track. They, again, prove themselves that they can do a lot of genres, and here they are doing blues this time, and it just works. They can do it. Let the Boy Rock and Roll. This song caught me off guard the first time I heard it back in the day, because this is a Lovin Spoonful being way ahead of the curve, like years ahead of the curve. Because by this point in mid-1965, having a 50s-ish sounding rock song on an album was totally passé, if you ask me. Like, that just didn't happen. It didn't come up that way. You know, that kind of old school rock and roll was long forgotten about. Elvis, Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, all that stuff was just over. And you had the Beatles and the Byrds and the Beach Boys and the Mamas and the Papas and all this current stuff. So to totally delve headfirst into that old school rock and roll vibe and completely nail it is something that wasn't going to be done for the next 3 or 4 years until bands like MC5 came out, or even some of the stuff on the White Album, or you know, Chuck Berry having a renaissance in the early 70s. Like, that happened later. And here's Lovin Spoonful doing it on their own, basically when no one else is doing it, totally not even thinking about like a garage band mentality, just going for a straight up rock and roll vibe with a Chuck Berry riff, you know, that raw vocal delivery, and can't say enough good things about it. It's an awesome rock and roll song. It keeps your head bobbing the whole time. It's a hell of a lot of fun. And it ends side 1. Side 2 starts off with jug band music, which is a total classic from the guys. I love the really rubbery lead guitar solo, lead guitar that, you know, basically just goes through this entire song. Can't talk today. And I love the storytelling element. That's one thing I've always loved about the Spoonful anyways. They have a storytelling vibe to their atmosphere that they create. You know, it's a story about a prescription for more jug band music. I mean, you're feeling sick? Jug band music. Oh, you having problems here? Listen to the jug band music. I love John's voice on here. I love the super crunchy bass that, you know, carries this whole song through. Just a good, catchy, lightweight song, and a lot of fun. Great way to start the second side. You didn't have to do it. Didn't want to have to do it. This is a really, really great song. I love the low-key, chill, not dark vibe to it, but definitely maudlin, or maybe just morose, or you know, overwhelmed or overcome with a sadness, knowing that you have to break up with somebody and how much that can suck, and when you don't want to do it, but you know you have to. That vibe is just captured extremely well in this one. They wrote some great ballads. That's for sure. They had some great ballads, and I love the really soft drums on this one. The rhythm guitar is like the heaviest thing on this track, but perfect touch of background vocals here and there. I love the way they blend with each other here and there throughout too. So much soul in such a sad song. It's just an awesome track. Really well done, well constructed, and well thought out. So dig that one a lot. You didn't want to have to do it. I'm sorry. You didn't have to be so nice. 2 didn't songs in a row get me tripped up. This was the single from earlier, and lots of layers here, complete with really catchy hooks between the main guitar riff, some bells, the bass line. I think the drums have their own riff, really. John's soothing delivery. It's just an excellent track that hits all the marks. I can totally see why it was a top 10 hit. It's an excellent track and probably one of my favorite songs by them. Super catchy, and I love the blend. They just capture a magic element there and run with it. Great song. Bald-Headed Lena. This is definitely my least favorite song on the album. It's easily the weakest track on here, if you ask me. It's definitely a cool, upbeat rocker song for sure, but lyrically, not the most inventive thing in the world. I mean, the laughing part is cool, like throughout the time that they're laughing, and I think it's the only song in the world at this point to have a gurgling water solo. So there's a Spoonful again ahead of the curve, doing the first water gurgling solo of all time. Bushy's tune, I really enjoy the touch of country on this track for sure, and the vibrato guitars throughout this thing. It's got that traveling, wayfaring stranger classic vibe, you know, jumping on the train, you got a story to tell kind of song. I like the shuffling drums. They could definitely create that movement feeling, that propulsive melody. And the fade out's really nice. And then Big Noise from Spionk. Just an excellent blues rock jam. I love the harmonica on this thing, the excellent hi-hat work on this thing, on the drums. The tambourine, the really loose guitar feels. Just an excellent track, a great way to end the album. I think it's a cool little tie-up to say like, hey, we're just here to jam for a little bit, and here you go. So, yeah, here's the back cover. So some pictures of the guys. And this was interesting back here. Basically, they took a bunch of fan mail and then made like a letter out of bits and pieces of different fan mail. So you get this like totally bizarre fan letter fantasy. And then it's on the old Kama Sutra label. You might be able to see that. Kind of bright there. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Lovin Spoonful anyway. I think they had some great tracks and some really good albums. I think they're definitely an underrated band. I think when you think of the '60s groups that had, you know, big hits like Mamas and the Papas and Lovin Spoonful, you think of their singles, don't put their album on and get lost in that world. But you really can with something like this. I really do enjoy this album a lot. You know, 4 talented guys doing their thing at this point. So I'd easily give this album like an 8 out of 10. Maybe a 7, 8. I'd go with an 8 out of 10. Yeah, not much else to say beyond that. Besides, I really do enjoy this album. What do you guys think of it? Do you like other Lovin Spoonful stuff? Let's talk about them. I think they're a bunch of talented guys. So that's it. My name is Giggens. This has been Album Reviews with Daydream, the Lovin Spoonful, on Kama Sutra Records, 1966. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.